widely read epic in the world. It has been described as the original epic quest, comparable to Star Wars and Romeo and Juliet rolled into one. The Ramayana tells the story of the hero god Rama, the seventh incarnation of the Indian god Vishnu. From his divine birth through exile, the kidnapping of his beloved wife Sita, and her eventual recovery, the Ramayana is an exploration into concepts such as loyalty, betrayal, redemption, and the nature of life. This time-honored classic Hindu tale tells of a time when the gods flew on ships through the air, and of giants that walk the earth. It delves into their magical weapons and their characters, some of whom can shapeshift. To some, the Ramayana is just a well-told fairy tale, but to others it is based on real events and characters that appeared in our past. Who were these larger-than-life characters that filled these pages? Where did they come from? And did they and their advanced weapons and technology really exist? Hi, I'm Dr. Rita Louise, and this is Just Energy. To help us navigate through the concepts brought forward in the Ramayana, we'll be speaking with Linda Egenes. Linda is the author of more than 500 articles and 5 books about the benefits of meditation, yoga, and other Vedic techniques for improving health. A practitioner of transcendental meditation since 1971 and a certified teacher since 1975, Linda is an adjunct associate professor of writing at Maharishi University of Management in Fairfield, Iowa, where she lives with her husband, Sanskrit scholar and author Thomas Egenes. Her book is The Ramayana, a new retelling of Valmiki's ancient epic. Her webpage is lindaegenes.com, so please welcome Linda Egenes. What makes it be so important to contemporary readers, whether they are in the West or they are in India?
Right. Well, in India, it's the foremost spiritual text in India. Sort of like the Bible to them, to people who are in India or Hindus, and also people in Sri Lanka, in Nepal, and Thailand, and other parts in the East. But in the West, I think, what is its value to us? Well, to me, it has just incredible spiritual depth and incredible spiritual guidance. For one thing, the characters of the Ramayana are enlightened people. They have beautiful qualities. I can read the qualities of Ram in a minute if you want. Like, he's an enlightened individual, and his wife Sita as well, and many other people in the Ramayana. And so when they go through their quest to, their trials and tribulations, like any great literature, they are pushed to extremes. They aren't just living a life of ease and beauty, even though they start that way. Of course, something has to happen. It's a story. It's an epic story. And so everything is taken from them, their kingdom, their wealth, their luxuries. And finally, they are even separated from each other when the demon king kidnaps Sita. And Ram must find him, and he's helpless. He has no kingdom, he has no army, and he doesn't even know where she is. So they are pushed to extremes. But even in this situation of being pushed to extremes, they are acting in a way with full dignity of life and compassion and forgiveness and love. And no matter who they meet, their friend, their servant, their king, their master, or their disciples, they are, and their enemy, they're acting with great love. And I think that's a beautiful message for our world today.
It's interesting because there is definitely a string of what you're talking about that runs through the book, and I agree with that. But the part I found the most interesting was that the whole, or the bulk of the narrative, was because Rama and Lamashi, his brother,
Lakshman,
that guy, his brother, I'll just say his brother, cut off the nose of one of the giants that set this whole thing in motion. And so when I got to that part of the book, I was like, oh, so it's their bad behavior. And and so I found it interesting that we had this very spiritual, giving up of self peace going on, mixing with bad behavior.
Well, I think there's different perspectives on everything, for sure. But my perspective on that is that, first of all, they did tease her lightly. They teased her. They said, "Oh, why don't you?" Because she came through the forest. She's a hideous rakshasa, which means she's a demon, and so she's looks horrible. Rama and Sita are sitting there in front of their hut, and with Lakshman. And she comes wandering through, and they just talk to her, and then they say, "What are you doing?" And she says, "Oh," but she comes in becomes enamored of Rama, and because he looks so radiant and beautiful. And she says, "Oh, why do you have such an ugly, pale-skinned wife? Why don't you take me? I am the most beautiful." And he kind of teases her and says, "Oh, I've already married, and why don't you try? What about my brother Lakshman?" And so, they kind of, there's a little bit of humor going on, but later they regret that teasing. But anyway, but then she gets angry and she rushes at Sita. She says, "I'm going to kill Sita." So at that moment, they could have killed her, but they were compassionate. They stopped her. And so, because the code of the warrior at the time was, of course, not to kill a woman. And so, in order to spare her life, they just stopped her by, by, as you said, cutting off her nose, which sounds horrible. But the fact is, she would have killed Sita otherwise. So it was their duty to protect his Ram to protect his wife and Lakshman to protect the two of them. So, I guess when you're confronted with that choice, they chose the lesser of two evils. So even in that way, I think they were compassionate.
Good answer. Good answer. And as you're talking about that, I really like investigating indigenous cultures, ancient cultures. And it's in Native American culture, but I would think that it would be in other places, and I'm kind of racking my mind going, what was the offense? But there are certain offenses that can happen. And I think it's infidelity, where they will cut your nose off as the punishment. So I'm wondering if that might have even figured into it, that well, I didn't know about it when I was reading that part.
Yeah, who knows? It's hard to say. There are, all of these different, certainly we've been influenced by all these different stories and myths and types, but many people feel the Ramayana is the first epic, the first archetype. It's certainly the first epic in India, and the Indian civilization goes back, millennia. So in India, it's felt that, this is the first epic. And so many themes come through that I think have influenced literature worldwide ever since.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And can you talk a little bit about Rama? Because I think who he is and who he is in the book is really important for people to understand how he figures into Indian cosmology.
Sure. Well, in the book, at the beginning, as we know, you're talking about cosmology. So it turns out he is the god Vishnu, who is reincarnated as a man. In order to kill this, the gods all conspire to make this happen, to have him incarnated on Earth as a man, in order to destroy the most seriously wicked demon of all time. And, excuse me.
It's the demon god of Lanka.
Right. And he's the demon god of Lanka, Ravana. And Ravana is, has these boons. He's also a great yogi in a certain sense, and that he could have chosen a different path. He gained great strength by praying to Brahma, and then Brahma gave him Brahma is the creator god, and he gave him these boons, and the boons were that he would never be killed by God or Yaksha or all these other celestial beings. But in his arrogance, Ravana forgot to ask to be free of being killed by animals and by men, because he felt men were just so lowly he didn't have any problem killing any man he wanted. So that's why the gods conspired to have Lord Vishnu be born on Earth as Rama. And so even from the start, Rama as an individual is just an amazing, beautiful person. I'd like to read, if you don't mind. I could read from the book a little bit of his qualities.
Sure.
And the point is that he didn't know it, though. Rama, at the beginning of the story, he doesn't know of his divinity. So when he goes through all of this separation from his wife and these terrible things, he suffers as a human. And I think that's another thing that makes this story so fascinating, that here you have these ideal, enlightened, beautiful characters, but they have the same kind of trials and tribulations that anyone on earth could have. And how do they react? And I think that's beautiful. And I want to talk about a little bit more about that later, but let me read Ram. This is from the prologue of the book, and it's when they describe the qualities of Ram. Rama has controlled his mind, radiant, powerful, and resolute, wise, eloquent, and glorious. He can easily destroy his enemies. With broad shoulders, a neck like a conch, and a prominent chin, he has long arms reaching to his knees. His head is noble, his limbs well proportioned, his complexion like the blue lotus. Of medium stature, his eyes large, and his chest broad, filled with splendor, with auspicious marks adorning his body. The personification of integrity, he helps those who seek him out. Ever mindful of the good in others, he is generous and keeps his word. Pure and devoted to truth, he is adept at attaining samadhi, transcendental bliss. With a pleasing disposition, Rama inspires virtue in others. With a perfect memory, he knows the essential nature of the Veda. As rivers flow to the ocean, so the virtuous are devoted to Ram.
Wonderful. When you were talking a little bit earlier, about this whole, the boons that Ravana received, and, then this conspiring by the gods to eliminate him, there's all of this, I'm going to say, backstory and these characters and all of this stuff going on. Did you simplify that in your book?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That was one of the things I did do, is I stick to more this through story. For instance, when Rama is a young man, he's 16, and he's taken by the sage Vishwamitra to kind of test his prowess and to prove what he can do in battle, to stop this wicked demon from destroying the religious ceremonies of the saints in the forest. So he goes there, and on the journey, though, Vishwamitra tells him all about his ancestors and all about his background and all about the house of the Ikshvaku race that he's part of. And so those stories, I had to leave out. I mainly left the through story of what happened to Rama and Sita once they were exiled, before they were exiled, and once they were exiled, and how, he got him back. So something had to give if we were going to reduce this thing to one volume. And so anyway, that was one of the things I did do. I did cut a lot of the side stories.
They were pretty good, though. I thought that they gave you insights into, what the thoughts of the people were at the time when you started meeting these miscellaneous characters and miscellaneous rishis, here and there, and he would have these interactions and stay with them. I thought that it was all good. Like I said, I really enjoyed the book.
Yeah, well, great. That's wonderful. Those stories I kept because that's part of the main story. Because from each of these rishis that he saw in the forest, these are great saints, these ascetics who live in the forest and spend their lives meditating and cultivating silence, and from there uphold all of society. They give him wisdom and advice. And for me, that was one of the most beautiful parts of the story, of what really attracted to me in the first place, because being a practitioner of transcendental meditation, I was fascinated to see this story where there are all these people who meditate, who practice, a form of meditation or other, and then, are able to share their wisdom with others. And so that was a very beautiful part of the story for me.
So you keep talking about Rama being exiled. So what if he was holy? Why was he exiled?
Yeah, this is a really good question. So what happens is that He's about to be coronated. In fact, it's he's about to be crowned. So it's his coronation day. But then what happens is that, obviously this is part of a greater design, part of the whole plan of the gods. But his one of his mothers, so the king has, his father, the king Dasharatha, has 3 wives. So Rama's mother, and then 2 other wives who also have children who are born on the same day as Rama and are his dearly beloved brothers. And they've all lived in complete harmony until now. And they all look to Rama as the eldest. Everyone in the kingdom loves him dearly. Because they just, he's only devoted to their welfare. He only lives to serve others. He is such a pure and beautiful soul. Everyone is delighted that he's going to be king. But then one of the mothers, the stepmother, we could say this could be the wicked stepmother archetype at the beginning, Kaikeyi. Now she has a son, Bharat, who is, one of Ram's 3 brothers, beloved brothers. But Bharat is away at the time. He's in the other kingdom visiting his maternal grandparents. But Kaikeyi is also devoted to Rama. She loves Rama more than her son Bharat, because everyone loves Rama more. And he's, in some ways, she's his favorite mother too. But then she has a servant who's been with her since the beginning, from the kingdom, even when she was born, a hunchback old woman, Manthara, and she is filled with vile thoughts. And she somehow convinces Kaikeyi, who is quite innocent. She convinces Kaikeyi that Bharat will be banned from the kingdom, and that Kaikeyi herself will be treated badly, and she's the favorite queen at this point because she's the youngest and most beautiful. And somehow she pounds this into Kaikeyi over a period of several hours, and convinces her that if Rama is crowned king, that Bharat will be tossed aside, and so will she, and treated unjustly. So she decides that she's going to, Mantra tells her to do this, that she's going to enter the anger chamber. And she's never entered this chamber in her life, but she tosses away her jewels like the stars scattering. Her hair is disheveled, and she dresses in rags, and she's lying on the floor of the anger chamber. And the king comes in, and he's completely vulnerable. He goes, "What is wrong?" He's never seen her like this. "What has happened? Whatever it is, I will fix it. I promise you, I'll do whatever you want." Well, she's got him right there. Because she says, "Remember those 2 boons that you gave to me years ago when I saved your life on the battlefield?" She was quite an amazing woman herself. "And you said I could have anything I wanted. Well, what I want is I want Rama to my son Bharat to be crowned king tomorrow, and I want, or whenever he comes back to the kingdom, and I want Rama to be exiled for 14 years in the forest." And that way, she figured, he couldn't get the crown back. Well, so Rama, this is his first test, right? So the king is just completely devastated. And actually, he dies soon after because he can't handle this. But Rama, he brings Rama, but he has to keep his word. He has to keep his word. This is what they do. This is what his line of people do. And so when Rama is brought to him on his coronation day, he's brought to his father. His father tells him this in broken, crying, and can barely talk. And Rama just says, "Well, as you wish, father. Of course, I will do whatever you want." And at that moment, we really see Rama's greatness. He's not ruffled. He's not at all disturbed at the thought of losing his wealth, losing his kingdom, losing everything, and having to wander the forest, the dark, deep, dangerous forest for 14 years. And of course, Sita goes with him, and his devoted brother Lakshman, and that's when the story really starts.
And then it goes on. So I have weird questions about the Ramayana, so I hope I don't go too weird on you. But the story is filled with a very odd assortment of characters that really don't fit into our conception of the world. We have giants, we have multi-headed, multi-armed demon gods like Ravana, and my favorites are the Vanara, the ape men that come to the aid of Rama. What do you make of these strange creatures that are in this story? That's Linda Egenes. Her webpage is lindaegenes.com. Her book, The Ramayana, a new retelling of Valmiki's ancient epic. And thank you for watching this portion of our interview with Linda Egenes. If you're enjoying today's program, please click on the button below and subscribe to our channel. If you want to hear this interview in its entirety, become a Just Energy Radio insider at justenergyradio.com and access full shows commercial-free and gain access to our over 9 years of show archives. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And so until next time, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Just Energy. Be blessed.
You